You know how oil wells are fracked? They put all these chemicals down the oil wells and they clean out what oil they can get. Well, not anymore, because of the chemicals would get into the water, the groundwater. And so somebody came along with the suggestion, why don't we just do what the dry cleaners do, your neighborhood dry cleaner does. He or she has a shop, and they have eliminated chemicals. They're using CO2 to pick up the particles out of your clothing, and they get this great big tank of CO2 in back, and they do it that way. They clean the clothes with that. I'm quite sure if they were full of mud and that, there'd be a different thing, but that thing. Well, they're doing that with oil wells. Instead of putting down the chemicals, they're putting down pressure CO2. Now, CO2 really gets into the rocks, the oil-bearing rocks, and they suck all this stuff up, and then of course under high pressure it's going back to the surface, and they're retrieving the oil, separating the oil. It's a lot easier than oil and water. They pull out everything out there, and then they reverse it again. CO2 they captured, they reverse it again and put it back in there after they got all the oil out. And the reason or theory is the ground will, under pressure, as a liquid, will kind of like freeze and be caught in the ground. Because you're talking something a mile down. Yeah. It should be under heavy pressure, and then they will seal the oil wells. And they got all these oil wells in fields. Okay, in theory, they're going to pull out all the oil. I mean, they're going to pull out all the oil, molecule, to the level of molecules, pull out the oil. And then what they're going to do is take the whole field and put CO2 in there. I mean, a lot of CO2. And someone said, a very simple one, all this is under pressure, a mile down where it's rather warm, and it gets on this rock. What happens if one of the oil well caps blow, like in the Caribbean? They put extra plugs in everything, and they make sure everything is sealed. Like just not like methane gas escaping. They make sure everything is sealed. But somebody says, what happens if you put one of these things pops, and all that CO2 that's under pressure is released? And they're putting a lot of CO2 underground. Of course, some wells are not just a mile deep. They're 2 or 3, 4 miles deep. So that's a lot of CO2 under pressure down there. Keep us sequestered down there. Well, what happens if it ever pops? You just hope you're not around. It could. It could add another parts per million or several parts per million to the atmosphere. But hopefully it will stay down there for 100 years, long after we're all dead. Oh well. I would name this Into the Closet, because you're basically taking a problem and hiding it in your closet. Yeah, with the skeletons too. Yeah.